gonna learn about Ziggy here that we don't already know? I guess, no, we learned about the Voyager thing already. I guess we'll go for this. It is possible that Ziggy's heart knew peace for the first time after Voyager was sent away after the destruction of Mictum. No one knows how much longer his brain will survive. However, for as long as he can, he'll do what he was unable to do before, dedicate his life to protecting those he cares about. Such was his promise to his departed friends. That's nice, actually. I'm glad they shared that. He's better now. Alright, let's find out what happened with Jin. Right, we saw that. Okay. Though his life was lost defending chaos in the Zarathustra battle, his spirit, his consciousness, travels alongside Nephilim to the distant land of Lost Jerusalem. Perhaps his consciousness, like those of countless others, lies in sleep eternal, awaiting the appointed day, until a time when all has gathered. They had to justify it somehow. That's all I'm going to say about that. And we're moving on. All right, Sergius the 17th. Right, the one that we killed. Oh, this is indeed new. Sergius, like all people of the Zohar, possessed the ability to make contact with the faint waves put out by the Zohar. But as an Ormus patriarch, his power was stronger than normal. It is believed that this is what allowed him to control Proto-Omega remotely. However, his powers were not as fully awakened as those of the test subjects kept in Labyrinthos, who had made direct contact with Udu. We could have learned that earlier. That wouldn't have given anything away. All right, Telos. Let's see what you have to say about Telos and Mary Magdalene. There we go. Over 80% of the body structure is based on the reanimated body of Mary Magdalene recovered from Rennes Chateau, and thus can be rightly described as flesh and blood. The reason why Telos nevertheless vastly surpasses Cosmos' version 3 is because Telos interfaces directly with the UMN, regulating the material domain data. She just contacts the collective unconscious directly. Intending to assimilate the consciousness of Cosmos, the half of Mary that exists in imaginary space, and become a single whole, Telos is instead defeated by the awakened Cosmos. The name Telos is derived from the ancient Greek word for the ultimate state of being or limitless power. Except she didn't attain that, because we stopped her. Next up we do have Nephilim. Are you going to give me some things? Alright, let's read it from the beginning, because I feel like Nephilim is one of those characters that isn't explained all that well. The illusionary girl who repeatedly appears before Shion with the sound of a chime. She existed as a human during the era of Lost Jerusalem. At that time, the Zohar was excavated from Lake Turkana and shipped to Toronto, Canada, where its analysis began. After it had been discovered that the Zohar produced tremendous energy in response to a specific brainwave wavelength, everyone had become fixated on finding a method to extract it. Systems programmer Grimoire Verum completed the control program Lemageton, based on the ancient language that had been unearthed from the same ruins as the Zohar. The system went out of control during a control experiment, and the young girl participating in the experiment became the first to disappear. The disappearance phenomenon continued to expand, eventually erasing all of Earth from dimensional space. The girl who disappeared at this time was none other than Nephilim. From the fact that the girl's disappearance coincided with the appearance of Abel, it can be deduced that the two share a cause and effect relationship. So she went into the upper domain, the collective unconscious, and Abel was spit out into ours, I guess. The Song of Nephilim is the result of amplifying the wavelengths created by Lemageton through the use of a giant tuning fork. That system was designed and built by Joachim Mizrahi. So, still not all that much information if you ask me, but there's some information there about Nephilim. Anything more? Mary Magdalene. You could assume that. Okay, so a black-haired woman who lived long ago in Lost Jerusalem, she divided up and sealed away Chaos's power as Anima. In the story, she is called the partner of the Messiah, though it is unknown whether she is actually the historical figure of Mary Magdalene. Judging from her words to Shion in the story, she likely shared some bond with her in her past life. So once again, you're taking away information from us, game, and you're saying it's unclear whether she's actually Mary Magdalene, the partner of the Messiah, or if she's some other Mary Magdalene. I'm going to continue to assume that she's like the historical one, because that makes more sense to me. Momo! How you doing, Momo? Let's see what we got, probably way down here at the bottom. There we go. Momo, left at the dawn of a new era after the events of Mictum, began to work with Ziggy, Yuli, and the others in order to rebuild the world. Firm in her belief that the construction of a new network was one path to saving the world, she believed that such a network promised a reunion with those who had already departed. That's sweet. Fits Momo very well. Joachim Mizrahi, genius scientist. Can we just put that, like, comma, genius scientist? I think he would like that. I felt like we have seen all this before. I guess I'll read the last bit. Though he was supposedly a madman, had Joachim not contained things in this way, the Gnosis phenomenon would have likely spread at an accelerated pace and have reached all regions of the galaxy much earlier. Yeah, it feels like at the time of the Federation's third descent operation on Miltia, Joachim forced the Song of Nephilim into overload. He cut the connection between Miltia and its surroundings and the UMN in order to contain the expansion of the sudden Gnosis phenomenon and the Zohar, the cause of the conflict to Miltian space. Yeah, I felt like we have seen all of that before. Maybe there's like a sentence squeezed in there. No, I feel like... maybe I'm wrong. Alright, that is it for characters. Let's see what else we have. Cultural is up next. What do you have here? The 100 Series Observational Unit. They are young-looking aliens designed by the late Professor Joachim Mizrahi based on the Momo prototype. That we already knew. And then there were the Kirschwashers, which were a little different. There we go. As part of the late Joachim Mizrahi's design concept, 100 Series Observational Units resemble young children completely. It is said that when the Contact Subcommittee took over development after Joachim's death, they carried over the external features to ensure that all the systems were working properly. Since it was impossible to reconstruct the systems that had been tuned for the youthful bodies, it is more likely that they simply went into mass production as is. I felt like we saw that too. Because the 100 Series system has similar specs to those with which Cosmos had been equipped, it is possible that there is some sort of connection between them, probably because Joachim Mizrahi and Kevin were working pretty closely at the time. But outside of that, once again, I'm not seeing anything particularly new there. They wouldn't lie to me, would they? I hope not. Alright, the Archon Cathedral. It is said to have its beginning with the ancestors of the Immigrant Fleet, who first drifted to this planet. Within a giant crack in the earth, they discovered underground ruins believed to be related to the Zohar. There, they built a facility to research both the ruins and the Zohar. The above-ground building is a place for the religious faith of the Immigrant Fleet populace, but underground lies the Zohar Research Facility, staffed by Ormus researchers. In the heart of the underground ruins, there exists a room made of a crystalline material that only Ormus cardinals are allowed to visit. Ziggy is closely connected to this place. It was here he was targeted by Voyager in a terrorist attack, and his wife and child were killed. It is also the place where Ziggy took his own life. Thanks for depressing me about the Archon Cathedral again. Hooray. Anything else? Rennes le Chateau. The spherical landmass that appears in the story is not a chunk of land from Lost Jerusalem floating in space. It just appeared that way after the Rennes le Chateau part made a direct spatial attachment to the area of space near Mictum. This happened when Lost Jerusalem, which had been shrunk down to Planck scale levels, returned to normal space together with the appearance of Abel's Ark. However, as Rennes le Chateau's spatial continuity has been cut off from Lost Jerusalem, it cannot strictly be defined as a part of Lost Jerusalem. Still feels like it is, though. A tomb lies deep inside. Kevin collected and restored the body of Mary that was resting within, turning it into Telos. As an aside, Rennes-le-Château is the name of a small village in the south of France, said to be the home of Mary Magdalene. It is the source of many legends and traditions, including stories about the bloodline of Jesus and the Holy Grail. All sorts of conspiracy theories, really. Whether the Rennes-le-Château in the story is the same place as the real life Rennes-le-Château is unclear for legal reasons. I'm gonna go there one of these days. All right, Planet Mictum. To Rennes-le-Château, not to Planet Mictum. After the appearance of the main Immigrant Fleet, the sovereignty of the planet was essentially transferred to the Immigrant Fleet nation, and the planet came to be commonly called Braxis. However, after Voyager's attack on the pilgrimage meeting in TC 4667, the Galaxy Federation tightened their surveillance of the planet, fearing that the Zohar would go out of control. This led to Abraxas' sovereignty falling out of balance. Eventually, all domain rights were transferred to the Galaxy Federation. The planet became recognized as a planet state under Federation law, and at the same time, an official declaration decreed that its official name was now Mictum, taken from the star system. I don't see anything new. But that is it for locations. Let's go back to organizations. We have an update on the Immigrant Fleet. Right, they were a separate fleet, and then they reunited. In the story, the Immigrant Fleet is mostly perceived as identical to Ormus, but this is not always true. The influence of Ormus doctrine has been diluted amongst some Immigrant Fleet splinter groups, and many have begun their own form of self-rule. These groups have advanced a policy of reconciliation with the Federation, and they would later join the Federation organization. It would appear that the Immigrant Fleet does not consist entirely of pious worshippers swearing allegiance to Ormus. Didn't we know that? Sure, let's go with Ormus. It was established long ago during Lost Jerusalem era and already existed as a group by approximately AD 40. Once again, Catholic Church. We're talking about Peter here. Its main goal was to protect the sacred relics and the words of God that had been left by the Messiah. It holds different doctrines taken from the world religions that would later break off from it and carries out its own set of sacraments. So once again, for legal reasons, it's not the Catholic Church, but it's totally the Catholic Church. And that's it. All right, so unknown, we have quite a few. Vessel of Anima. The Vessel of Anima is, so to speak, half of Chaos's body. This is news to me. Chaos himself is something like a failsafe device for the universe. In other words, when the consciousness of space begins to go out of control, Chaos has the ability to expunge it, along with space itself. The Anima is the expression of that power. Long ago, half of Chaos's body, the Anima, was decoupled from Chaos by Mary and made into the vessels of Anima. This saved the world from destruction, but also caused half of Mary's body, the Animus, to be dispersed across the area of the collective unconscious. In other words, the UMN. See, this goes against what the guide said and what I assumed to be true as well, because there were followers of Mary that had the vessels of Anima. Like, this does not make sense to me. Probably why I scraped it from my memory. How can it be half of his body? Like, he still has his body. And Mary still had her body. I mean, it's still spines, though. What do I know?